Guys, so we looked at the 7 habits on page 36 and 37, which we've discussed in detail, then specifically prioritizing and the different quadrants. I've asked you to read page 39 as well, where that was just a summary of the whole 7 habits. Okay, so we are going to start with page 43 today, personal planning. This is on page 43, yeah. Okay, so personal planning, it can't take place without personal planning, any personal management. So you have to prioritize your daily activities. I hope this is what you are doing as well. Otherwise, you're going to run out of time totally. Okay, so personal managing roles, we will look at the quadrant 2 as a manager here specifically, where you have to spend time on important things, and this will lead to a clear vision and balanced life. Otherwise, you're going to run around not knowing where to start, what you must do, where the next, what the next thing must be, what you have to plan then. So you have to have a daily plan. If you haven't done that before, maybe that is a good idea to start doing it now before you actually start working. Then we look at time management, where we then have a situation where we must use our time effectively. Now, with time management effectively, this means that you will look at things that will, in your personal life, tasks that you have to do. If it is now personal life or work, remember we mentioned work-life balance right in the beginning. So you will ask a few questions. What are my daily priorities? And you will write it down, because that will also make it easier for you to see and remember that so that you can get to all the tasks. Do I have any urgent appointments? Okay, now if we look at back to the quadrants, that was then the priorities. That was then where we looked at urgent and important, or just urgent but not that important. How and when do I relax and recharge, which is also very important. You have to work time in to actually do that. What roles do I play? So, are you a mother? Are you a sister? Are you the main person that's got the only person that has an income? Where do you fit in? What are my goals? And you have to set goals for yourself. Otherwise, if you don't have any goals set, how on earth are you going to achieve anything? Okay. Then what tasks do I need to schedule? Now, scheduling may be important interviews or appointments at doctors where you maybe have to assist your mother or someone. And that will then be where we will actually have to really take time to then approach or then make the appointment. Sorry, guys, can I just stop there quickly? Seems like Drakenstein is just trying to get us in. Just going to mute myself quickly. Okay, guys, so let us go through to the next part, and that is effective planning system. So with effective planning system, we actually have to consider a few components. The first one is having a clear objective. Now you can hear that the whole module that we are talking about is then about objectives. Then developing a strategy to reach the objective. So how are you going to actually be able to reach this the objective? And then collaboration, also scheduling, action, checking, and implementing. So here we are going to look at the action plan, where one is important element is that you have effective planning system, and that is also scheduling. Now, if you look at figure 2.17 at the bottom of page 45, you will see that there is a schedule. I think some of you use this on your phone as well, where you book then important appointments. So this can play a key role in time management. Because sometimes we get so busy that we don't remember appointments or something like that. So start using this. That might make life way more easier for you. You also need to have a weekly planner to schedule all your tasks, and then keeping in mind the various roles that you also have to fulfill. So with TM1 coming up now, maybe that is a good idea for you to schedule what you're going to study, which subject, and also which modules. The next step is to identify and organize the tasks that is related to each role that you have to play. In a weekly schedule of tasks, that will also help you to do this. Steps to complete a weekly schedule: you will identify and understand the tasks that you need to achieve. This is now in your personal as well as your business goals. Now, you're not in a business, but maybe you can include your studies there. Okay, determine the actions that you need to take to achieve these goals. Also determine the activities that you need to be done daily and also weekly. Prioritize what is urgent, what is important, what is urgent but not important, or urgent and important. Scheduling appointments. Also keep in mind the principles for personal motivation, the 7 habits that we spoke about. Okay, then there is an activity 2.8, which we're not going to do now. Task 2, we're also going to leave. This is now part of our AM. I haven't received that yet, so as soon as I do, I will then share that with you as well. Motivating your workforce. This is very important, because if you are a business owner, you have to have staff members who are motivated, who would love to come to work, who would do their best, because if they do that, they will be very productive. So let us look at the definition of
Sorry, ma'am, you are mute.
Thank you. Sorry, I think that was by accident. Thank you. Okay, so motivation. Did you hear that? Yes? Okay. So motivation is an internal drive or desire that individuals have to extend themselves. So they do more than they actually should. Look at this little picture that I have there. Okay, so you've got the goal in mind. Your attitude is positive. You're ready for anything. You've got ideas. You've got backup plans. You are success driven, and then you have support because you work in a team, and then your performance is 100. I actually want to say 150%, because that is how you must actually go through life and also take every day. So people differ, so that is why motivation will then differ as well. So different things motivates different people. Maybe just think for a moment what really motivates you. Hopefully it's not only money, because okay. All right. So let us look at methods to implement motivation. Maybe this will help you as well. So we have various theories that will drive an employee to be motivated. We are going to look at only 3 of them. The first one is the Herbert's theory, which focuses on the people's job and working conditions. Okay, we're going to look at them in depth now. Then the Likkert's theory, which focus on the influence of various management styles. And then Maslow, you all know Maslow focuses on the different levels of personal needs. Maslow, I think you did in detail in module, in 4, communication. Yes? Okay. Now, guys, I had to remove this slide because it was actually, there was a mistake on it. I will just upload it before I print it for you guys. Okay, so Herbert's theory, it's a 2-factor theory. Before we do that, let us just look at the different theories and the explanations of that. So the job theory is then the Herbert's theory. That is the table 2.5. Working conditions, just a summary quickly, and that is the way that the job is structured and also performed. Then the organizational theory, which is the Likkert's theory, that is management styles, the way that the organization is structured and managed, that will motivate your employees. Then people theory, that is the Maslow one. So it focuses on the individual and their needs. So the Herbert's theory, this is important factors. They sometimes ask you to make use of one of the 3 and then apply that to a case study. So make sure that you know this as well. This whole module 2 and module 1 is very important. Okay. So Herbert's theory focus on the people's jobs and their working conditions. That's what we said. So 2 things here. We look at the table on page 49, you will see that we have actually 2 factors here. The one is hygiene, and this is the job, the satisfaction, and then the other one is motivation factors, which is the job satisfaction. Now, if we look at the different ones, for hygiene factors, you have wage and salary. So job dissatisfaction, where the job satisfaction is the meaningful work. Hygiene has got status, where the motivation one has got challenging work. Then security, and on the other side, the recognition for accomplishment. The hygiene one, working conditions, where the motivation one, feeling of achievement. Then hygiene benefits, and motivation is then increased responsibility. Hygiene, policy and rules, you can see this is all just work related now, where the motivation is more people related. This is opportunities for a person, and it's also professional growth or promotion. And then the last ones here for hygiene, interpersonal relations with co-workers, where motivation is only doing the job itself. Sorry, then hygiene do not motivate employees, but they are then factors to be inadequate, and that will also cause dissatisfaction. Motivational factors, that is based on individuals' needs for the personal growth, and they are actively creating job satisfaction. Okay, so this is actually what motivates people. So how can Herbert's theory be applied to practice? Okay, so we can look at low productivity, poor production or service quality, strikes, industrial disputes and breakdowns, and then also complaints about pay and working conditions. So Herbert's then management should then focus on rearranging the work so that the motivational factors can take effect. So he suggests 3 ways of doing this, and the first one is the job rotation on which is also in the table 2.6, where we have periodically where the moving of workers from one specialized job or position to another one. So job rotation. So you are going to move around a bit in the department. Then the job enlargement, increase the number of tasks, also the complexity of the tasks that the employees need to perform. Then the job enrichment, this is then attach additional task or authority to employees' position or role. And that is what I did with the people sitting in front of your class today. Giving them a little bit of a challenge to do something new. Thank you for that anyway. All right, guys, so the next one that we're looking at is Likkert's theory, the second one, that is on page 50. So with this one, they did, Lickert did research on how the different management styles actually affect people's motivation. He found that some management styles are more motivational than others. Okay, so maybe just think where you might fit in, or maybe you can see someone that you know that will fit into this different system so that you can maybe link a picture to that. Okay, so the first one is the exploitative authoritative system, and this is where there is little communication and teamwork. So the management imposes decisions on the employees and motivates employees using fear-based methods. So people are scared of this person. That is why they actually do what he or she asks. The method takes unfair advantage of workers. Second one, benevolent authoritative system. This is then where we have little communication and teamwork with the emphasis on rewards rather than punishment. So they will rather give you a reward if you did something good. This is then where the managers take charge of all organizational decisions, and then the people must just be productive, and it is obviously reward-based systems that is going on there. Okay, I think we used to do that one with children in the house. Then the next one, the consultative system, some communication and little teamwork, while the managers take the employees' ideas into account. So they do not feel personally responsible for the company's goals or direction, but they include the workers here. So they are encouraged to give their opinions and also comments and to help them, the business then develop. Fourth one, participative group system. This is good communication and cooperative teamwork. So they work together as a group. They are almost like a family. They are involved in employees, and they will also be focused on the goals of the organization and solve problems through teamwork. So this will be where someone in the group says, oh, but I don't want to go to class today. Then some people will in the group will say, no, man, come, let us do that. Okay, that is what I experienced in room 12 this morning. Thank you, guys, for being very interactive and ready and motivated to be here today. Okay, so this method then allows workers to feel that they are part of this business. Okay, so these 4 then, of which from the I would say the last one is the best up to the worst management styles. Okay, Next up then is our Maslow hierarchy of needs. I'm not going to go into depth into this. All that I have to say here, because you've done this in N4, in communication, it focuses on the individuals. And remember, you start on the lower level of needs, and that must be satisfied before you actually go to the next level. That is very important. All right. Then we are on page 52, the importance of motivating your workforce. So the benefits for a company in doing that, motivate your workforce, is that they have increased productivity. Now, that is what you want in any business. Also, the employees are increasingly more committed, improved employee satisfaction, and this lead to growth in the company. So if you have a friend maybe who is maybe depressed, and you tell this person every morning, you look so good. You know, this is a feeling of satisfaction that they actually get. And that will let this person actually grow into a more positive person. But if you tell them, what's happening with your hair, or something wrong with their clothes or something, then it's not good and positive feeling that they're going to actually have, and it's not going to be satisfied. Okay, the next one, decrease in staff turnover. So staff turnover means people come and go, no? So you don't want your staff members to leave a company. The reason for that is if you train someone and you spend a lot of money on that person, it means that the next person must be trained again. So this is actually affecting your budget. Okay. So next one, lower levels of absenteeism. If people are very absent, it also has an effect on the rest of the company and the staff members. Positive image for the company, and this enable it to recruit the best workers. So what you should do, and I hope you have done that, if you are looking for a company to actually do your practicals, your after N6, start doing research about the company before you just go. Look at the image. Is it positive? Is it negative? Look at the staff turnover. Because what we actually want is when you are settled in a company, we want you to actually, when there are positions open after you've completed your studies, we want you to then just enroll and just be part of that company. Get a permanent position there then as well. Happy and motivating work, a motivated workforce, that is what you always want. And this is people working together to reach your objective as a company as well. Motivated employees who are committed to improve the product quality or then the customer service. Excellent idea and excellent way to work. Okay, next up is then teamwork on page 53. A team is a group of people selected to work together on a task or then on a project. This is like me and Mr. van der Westhuizen and the IT people and all the new staff members like the assistant. We were actually selected to work on this project for you guys. Okay, teamwork, what does it mean? That is a group of people who will work together to enable everyone to achieve a goal. So I've got a goal, Mr. van der Westhuizen's got a goal, the IT people has got a goal, and then the assistant also has a goal. So we all work together within the group to achieve our own goals within the project, but then obviously the goal for the project as well. And that would be in an efficient way. That is how we're going to work together. So benefits of teamwork. Reduce cost, increase quality, increase employee involvement, reduce conflict, reduced absenteeism, and then better adaptability and flexibility in the organization. Now, this is things that we've mentioned previously as well. Huh? Okay, then synergy, sorry. Synergy. Synergy, what is that? The definition is a combined power of a group of people who then, when they work together, achieve better results than the total of each person working on their own. So if they ask me to do this on my own, I wouldn't be able to do this because I don't have that much knowledge of installation of the IT equipment that we need. The assistant helps me to be in places where I can't be. So this is then actually a very good example of synergy that is happening here right in front of your eyes. Okay, building a successful team involves identifying the tasks that need to be done, allocate the appropriate resources, and then ensure that the work flows from one process to the next. And that is also what we are doing, also happening here right in front of your eyes. Okay, then steps that you have to take then to ensure that this teamwork is going to be successful. Bottom page 53. Step 1, determine the goals of the team. So here we're going to look at each one's goals, as I've mentioned. Then step 2, identify the role of each team member. Okay, so every person in the group will then, or in the team will then have a specific role. Step 3, make sure everyone clearly understand their role and task. Then step 4, delegate tasks to people with the right skills. Okay. Step 5 on page 54, accept responsibility for your role. Step 6, this is then be comfortable with a disagreement, and we have that from time to time. Which is not a problem because everyone's way of thinking differ. Then step 7, be supportive in the group, listen to each other and give positive feedback. And that is now after there might be a disagreement as well. Step 8, have a positive attitude towards challenges. And then step 9, promote the participative management. Okay, then team building, how does that happen? You may have many benefits coming from this. This is actually where trust plays an important role in the team building. If you can't trust each other, it's going to be very difficult to build a team. Okay, so we look at benefits. Improved productivity, better communication, building of trust, also more collaboration, because people think now of more ideas, so they get more creative, better motivation, and also because you achieve something. Then improved organizational culture, and also healthy competition, and the last one, creative thinking, that I've mentioned just now. Right, the last bit for today is then group dynamics. Group dynamics is the way in which people in a group or team behave and also react towards each other. Okay, so we have certain group members who are in different management roles or not. So as soon as you get together as a team, there is a certain dynamic around that. So some people will just be expected to actually be the managers or the leaders because they are in a position normally to actually do that. But it might also not be the situation. So team members may take up different roles here in the team. Okay, so if we look at Belbin's 9 team roles, maybe you want to look at this and what's your class members. So look at the class members and look at the different roles. And then we're going to look at the characteristics. Maybe you might identify some of the people here. Okay, so this first role is shaper. This is a dynamic person who normally motivates the team to find the best way to overcome challenges. Maybe you want to point to someone in the class that is that person, if you know them that well. Then the implementer. This is the practical person who transforms ideas into plans. Completer. The person focused on the end product and ensure that the team adheres to deadlines. Okay, coordinator. The person ensures that everything is coordinated and is normally a good delegator as well. Team worker. The person tries to ensure that the team remains united. Then the next one, resource investigator. This is the Mr. or Mrs. Google, no? They always go on to research whatever you said, they will go and do research regarding whatever the fact is. They has good negotiation skills as well. Then monitor evaluator. This is a critical thinker who may slow down decision-making process because they have questions to many actions. They also want to know why, what are we going to do, when are we going to do this? Then the specialist, that is the person who has expert knowledge in a particular area and tends to ignore other experts in their specific field. Then plant. Although he or she prefer to work alone, this person has many original ideas, right? And then we look at the different roles of the team members. So here we have on page 56, we have a dominator, task role. This is, the description says, talks too much, controlling person, those people who boss everyone around. Huh? Then the shy person does not share ideas or take part in communication, normally only a follower. Avoider does not like conflict. They avoids work and also or then confrontations. They avoid that totally. Blocker or uncooperative person does not cooperate and also possesses all ideas, even good ones. Degrader tends to be negative towards ideas of others. So only their ideas are then important and supposed to work or be implemented. Recorder, that is the records all ideas and also decisions taken. The last one here, compromiser. They try to please everyone and focus on a solution that everyone will find acceptable. Interesting. Okay, we've got a summary on page 57. And then we have going on to page 58. Then I want us to do section B. I want you to do question 2 now, and then we will do 3 and 4 together. Okay. Remember, there are papers in front of the class that you can make use of if you don't have a book. Okay, so in the meantime, I'm just going to bring your attendance registers quickly as well as Caltech. Okay.